All right, welcome back. I'm here to answer more of your Bethyl and TD questions. Let's just dive right into my inbox since I have basically 2 weeks worth of them to do. I'm not sure if I'll get through all of them this week, but here we go. Non-TD or Beth related, but I just wanted to say I really miss Laurie Holden on the flagship show. I know that her character Andrea isn't very well loved by fans, but outside of that, Laurie as a person is so kind, wonderful, and such a professional. I truly believe that she deserves so much better than the ending she received. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I'm one who really didn't like Andrea's character very much, but that's not the same thing as the actress who plays her. And I do know that most people didn't like the ending she got. Like you said, it came across as pretty cheesy in a lot of ways, and people were just sort of shaking their heads at it. But we also do know that that was not the original ending they had for her, and the original ending they had for her was far, far worse. I've made this joke before, but Gimple actually came in when they fired, I always forget his name. He's got a Italian name, the showrunner from season 3, and scrapped everything they'd done thus far and rewrote the ending for her. And so I've just always kind of laughed at that and gone, geez, that ending really wasn't the best. And I think Gimple did the best he could with what he had to work with in such a small time frame. And he was trying to make a better ending for that character for Laurie's sake. But what on earth did they scrap? You know, how bad must it have been? But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. And, you know, it's too bad things like that happen. I know that there was a lot of people in the early seasons that were upset with the way things ended, but Gimple coming in the 4th season, it seemed really to kind of stabilize after that, and we didn't get nearly as many reports of people fighting behind the scenes, you know, with the writers or with the directors or with the studio. So it was really a good thing that Gimple took over. But yeah, I hope that wherever Laurie is, she's doing okay. When Beth told Daryl about how she imagined Glaggy having a baby and growing their own little family, Herschel Sr. getting old watching it all, and Beth herself getting to be an auntie, fully present in her nephew's life, the next thing she said to him, "You're going to miss me so bad when I'm gone, Daryl Dixon," what went through her mind and thought it was okay to say that. I mean, we know that she was drunk in the moment and probably wasn't thinking 100% straight, but I think somewhere she must have regretted saying that and did not want that to be true. What do you think? So 2 different ways to answer this. Number 1 is that it was the foreshadow of it all. They had her say that as a way to foreshadow that she and Daryl were going to be separated. And it was really, honestly, Gimple's just a genius. It was really an intelligent way to do it, because once she got shot and they were trying to convince us all that she died, people look at this and say, see, that was a foreshadowing. She said she was going to die. You know, you're going to miss me so bad when I'm gone. And Gimple knew that would be the case. That's why he used that line. But it also works if they are just separated and she's alive somewhere. So it was Gimple, you know, having double and triple layers of meaning there, but also doing a major foreshadow, right? In terms of what was actually happening in the scene with the characters, I mean, maybe she would have regretted it. Maybe we'll see a scene where she regretted it after she was taken from Daryl. But I think in the moment she wasn't being totally serious. I mean, she was, but she wasn't. I've always seen this as sort of a romantic moment for Beth. Like, she's crushing on Daryl big time right here. And she's when she says, "I'm going to be gone someday," it's not that she's kidding, but she's just making the statement that someday she's going to die, and she doesn't think that she'll live as long as he will because he's better at surviving. But I also don't think that she had any inkling like, I'm going to die next week, or we're going to be separated next week, or anything like that. You know, it was also her kind of teasing him, and you know what I mean? Like, she was almost being a little bit sarcastic with it, and she was also trying to make a point, you know? So, the point of the line, I think, wasn't so much that she was going to be gone, but that he would miss her if she wasn't in his life anymore. And so that was her way of saying, I think you have feelings for me. You're going to miss me so bad if I'm not here, you know? And just the way she says it very wistfully, and she's kind of smiling when she says it. And I just felt like people like to say that Daryl's feelings were revealed at the candlelight dinner. And then she says, oh, but that's so non-committal, and we don't know what her feelings were. But I think this line, the way she says it, really does show her feelings. And I don't think she ever thought that he would reciprocate them. And so when he shows her that he does, she truly is surprised by that. But I think that this very much shows how she felt about him, and that she wanted him to miss her if she wasn't there. And boy, oh boy, did she get her wish, right? So that's my take on it. She might regret saying it, but I think it was more just about their interplay at that time, and she's being a little bit flirtatious when she says this, and so I don't think it's about saying something mean, even though you're right that Daryl did take it that way. Right after that is when he says you're not a happy drunk at all, because we know that Daryl does not like being alone. So that's like the worst thing he can imagine, is being the last man standing. So she was trying to compliment him, but all he could see in her compliment was loneliness, and so it was just really, really an interesting interaction. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Thanks for it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Beth seems to have more merchandise than her elder sister Maggie. Is that correct? I would say so. I mean, it's not like I've sat around counting all the merchandise, so I couldn't say for sure, but it seems to me that Beth has more merchandise than most of the other characters. I mean, the really big ones like Rick and Daryl and Michonne probably have as much or more, but especially among deceased characters, she has more than most of the rest combined. And I would say that she probably has more than Maggie, because Maggie, even though she's a staple on the show and has been on it for a long time, honestly, she's not the most popular character. She's not a character that really naturally ingratiates herself to the audience. So people like her. It's not that she is hated or anything, but people just don't point to her and say she's my favorite character very often. I'm sure, I mean, of course, she has her fans and people who really love her, but it doesn't seem to me like what I'm trying to say is I almost feel like Beth has more merchandise than Maggie does, to answer your question. And that's weird, given that Beth is supposed to be a deceased character. You wouldn't think that any deceased character would have more merchandise than someone who's currently on the show, but that's definitely the case with Beth. And again, I don't know what the actual number is between Beth merchandise and Maggie merchandise. Maybe they're the same. Maybe there's more than I realize of Maggie. But even so, the point is Beth has a lot for a character who is apparently deceased and not coming back. And so that's super suspicious. Next one. How certain do you feel that Beth is coming back? I don't feel all the way, but I like to hope. I'm pretty darn certain. Yeah. I mean, especially with everything we've learned from when the flagship show ended. We've gotten, 3 spinoffs now. Dead City didn't have tons of Beth stuff, but it had a little bit, and most of what we saw in Dead City was more supporting the CRM narrative. But especially with Daryl Dixon season 1 and now The Ones Who Live, it's just confirming everything we've been saying for a long time. So I am very certain that we're going to see Beth at some point, probably pretty soon. So I hope that helps you a little bit. All right. I don't think that Rick and Michonne will escape the CRM, like ever. The moment that both of them first entered the CRM on separate occasions, their fates were sealed. However, I do believe that the two of them will turn things inside out within the CRM and will be the ones to be leaders, as they previously were for Alexandria, since we already know that majority of TF communities had become Commonwealth. Of course, future leaders of CRM shouldn't stop them from visiting their loved ones back in the Commonwealth and returning to their children. Possibly. I don't know. I do think that they will return at some point, even if... I mean, in this last episode, we actually did see them get away, and that's not to say that they aren't going to be dragged back. I mean, it did occur to me that it could be a parallel to Noah from Grady leaving and then being brought back. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But the thing is, there is some symbolism in Season 7 that I've always thought point toward when Rick finally goes back to Alexandria. And the thing is, Daryl would have to be there. So I don't know how that's all going to play out. But it's at the end of the A part of Season 7. So if you remember, the A part of Season 7, it was after Glenn and Abraham died, and Rick was just 100% bowing to Negan. And everybody hated that. We hated seeing Rick that weak. We hated that he was doing that. Everybody got really ticked off about it. But then finally, about halfway through the season, he finally came around and said, okay, we're going to fight back now. And him and Michonne went to Hilltop, where Maggie was. And that was a very inspiring scene because they were finally going to take action and fight back. But in that part, he and Michonne walked in hand, and the biggest thing to me was that Daryl handed him back his revolver that's Rick's signature gun. And so to me, that felt like, especially in what we saw after Rick left, because of course when Season 7 aired, we didn't know Rick was going anywhere. Nobody had any inkling that he was going to be leaving the show in Season 9. But after season 9, when I went back and watched that scene, I went, okay, so this is Daryl having the gun. In the show, it was just that he like found it at the sanctuary, right? But symbolically, that represents him being a leader in Rick's absence. He had like the gun, which is like the mantle of leadership. But then we see him hand that back to Rick. And so it's like him passing the leadership back to Rick. But that has to happen after, I think, Rick comes back from the CRM. So I think he will come back at some point and wage war with the CRM. That doesn't mean that they might not be pulled back to the CRM first for a long time, or that they might not be going back and forth. I don't know. Like it's all conjecture, of course, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I think it's a possibility. I just think that even if they're kept in the CRM and if they stay in there long term, even if it is just to change things, that they'll still go back to Alexandria and see everybody there. So I don't know. Well, it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Okay. I saw this the other day, and I believe it's not only referring to Rick and Michonne relationship or even TF in general, but probably to an old/new relationship like Daryl and, well, we all know who. All right, so this says, what keeps The Walking Dead moving forward? Showrunner Scott Gimple insists love is the fuel. Salon talks to the Walking Dead franchise head about how its zombie world afterlife has moved beyond despair. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree that it's talking about Daryl and Beth as well. But the interesting thing to me about this is that if he were just talking about Rick and Michonne, that wouldn't necessarily be something that you would reference for the entire Walking Dead universe, right? You would say that's what keeps Rick and Michonne moving along, or, for this branch of the story, that's what keeps them moving. But to say that it's for the whole universe, that definitely does suggest that he's talking about other things too. And of course, you could bring in familial love and platonic love, and, Rick and Michonne are trying to get back to their kids and all of that. But, Gimple has been very outspoken about how this is meant to be an epic love story between Rick and Michonne. So when he goes and says something like this, it's hard not to attach it specifically to romantic love. And then they're spreading that not just from Rick and Michonne, but over the entire Walking Dead universe. So yeah, I completely agree. And stuff like that just makes me smile and makes me happy and makes me excited. Hello, I hope you have a good day. Thank you. Honestly, I have lost a lot of hope for Beth's return. It will have been 2 years since I have known Bethyl, and I am truly grateful because I've had so many wonderful days and beautiful feelings because of them. I'm tired of waiting, and I'm ashamed to say this because you and your friends have waited almost 10 years for Beth to return and reunite with Daryl. I always wonder how you were able to wait all these long years and are still waiting. You are truly amazing. I don't feel like I love Bethyl anymore. I don't know how to explain my feeling, but I feel like I hate them and don't care about them, and then I feel like I miss them and I want them back. And I put millions of scenarios in my head. What will Beth be like? How will she meet Daryl? And thank you for reading my message. No, I mean, that's totally normal. You get frustrated when it doesn't happen right away, and it is hard to wait. I think we've kind of kept ourselves company by looking at the symbolism and just looking forward to it all the time, even though we didn't know when the return would be or how long it would be. But it's common to get frustrated with it and to go back and forth and then to get sick of it and then to miss it again. So I think you're in good company, and that's totally normal. And hopefully we will just see her soon, so you won't have to be frustrated waiting any longer. But I do appreciate your words. Thank you. And yeah, I hope that you stick around to see what happens. But I totally understand where you're coming from. I got this from a Screen Rant article. I know they're usually not great, but as far as I know, they don't say BS about interviews and stuff. What really grabbed my attention is the use of strange things that could come to be. Now, this could be related to Beth, but also could be related to general new zombie stuff, since it seems like they really are beginning to explore more with cures / experiments, but who knows? Okay, so this says, additionally, Gimple suggested that there are more TWD projects being dreamed up right now. He said, we're in the lab right now and working on a lot of really strange things that could come to be. I'm excited for other possibilities, but right now they're just possibilities. Yeah, I mean, I do think, we saw Tales of the Walking Dead, which was kind of just random one-off stories, and they obviously can keep doing that and, do whatever they want with it. They can do endless spin-offs about different characters, and without at least one of the main flagship show characters being there, I don't think it will be as successful, but that doesn't mean it won't be successful. I really, really enjoyed The World Beyond, even though those were all new characters. So, Yeah, for sure. It could be about the cures. It could be about a lot of things. I think the thing that jumps out at me most here is this last line when he says, I'm excited for other possibilities, but right now they're just possibilities. I'm sorry, but Gimple is full of crap when he says that. That's something that he says a lot, but he said it about a Rick and Michonne series. And, it's on the horizon. Maybe we'll do it, maybe not. And it's really obvious that not only was he already planning on it then, but he already had been for like 10 years, So when he says, oh, maybe, we're not sure yet, possibilities, I just don't believe him. I believe he's planned 10 years ahead of where we are, and he knows exactly what they're going to do, even if it's not in production yet. So more than anything else, that just kind of makes me chuckle. I'm like, yeah, sure, Gimple, we believe you, But yeah, that definitely is something that's interesting to say, and it'll be fun to see where they go with it. Okay, I'm going to wrap up there for today, but I will be back later with more answers to your questions. Have a good day, guys.